I just got the go-ahead from Rabbi Feder. That means I'm good to go. How are you, everybody?
Great.
Great. Yeah, awake?
Yes.
Yeah. Ready for the prize? These people, you're the survivors. You're the Discovery survivors. You get the prize at the bottom of the Cheerios, you know? Excuse me. I'm going to deliver. So we started off with a premise, as you know, and basically the question, we all gathered here together on Friday night, and we had a question, and that was, who is the author of this document? That is the question. We have a Torah, 5 books of Moses. Maribel, come in. I see you at the door. There's no hiding. Not waiting. And the question is, who wrote this book? If we can offer you evidence that this is actually a book of divine authorship, I think, you should think that will make a big difference in your life. I mean, if you really believe that God had anything to do with this book, I mean, you know, how could you ignore it? That's really the premise, having said it straight out like that. How could you ignore it if you really believe it's God's word? If you don't believe it's God's word, that's easy to ignore. Of course, people made it up, so I made it up, you made it up, so what? So somebody wrote a smart book, so what? Right, you know, pick and choose. Very nice. But God is a little bit different, yeah? A little bit different category. So we're going to do 2 things today. We're going to show you one part of what we called identifying information early, which I purposely left over for this morning, because I wanted to do it with the audio-visual here. And then we're going to do the final piece, was the control, that I will tell you is the, even though I said to you that national revelation is the most important thing that you will learn, but what I'm going to show you at the end today is the thing that is most talked about. It is the thing that is most likely that you will repeat to someone. You'll go home today and you say, hey, you got to hear this. Hey, you got to see this. That's what this is. So it's really, it's a little more exciting. I wouldn't say more important, not more important, but more repeatable, and more interesting for to share with somebody else. That's for sure. Okay, so there are still some doubters in the audience. I'm looking around and saying, you know, maybe not. Maybe, all right, you showed me pigs and fish. You showed me 7 wonders of prophecy that were unbelievable that they can come true even though they're totally contradictory. How can you have an eternal covenant, an eternal nation? How can you have people who are here for forever and yet still be hated, tiny, exiled, dispersed, and they're also the light into the nation? I mean, that makes no sense. So who could have written a book like that? And you heard about national revelation. Only one religion, remember, only one religion ever claimed that God spoke to them. That's us. What about all the other religions? Not the same. And there are offshoots of Judaism. You go to each quarter in the 4 corners of Jerusalem, the old city, they all believe that God spoke to the Jewish people at Sinai. The only ones who doubt it is us, right? We're the ones who question, right? We spoke about the incredible transmission of Torah. Look at all the differences, how brilliant we have when our Torah scrolls, are kept intact. They're still exactly the same as they were a few thousand years ago. Incredible. But there are still doubters in the audience. So right now, if you're not a doubter, you can go to sleep. If you're still doubting, if you'll have questions, listen up. Listen up, for you doubters, okay? You're not really sure. We're going to look right now at the alternative. We're going to take the alternative approach. We're going to join you. We're going to become you. We're going to be with the doubters, and we're going to say, God had nothing to do with this Bible. What's the alternative? People wrote it. Okay, people wrote it. Let's try it out. We're going to see if it makes sense. People wrote the book. Fine. It's a human-authored document. Fine. We're going to test it out right now. If it makes sense, I will have to submit to you that it's a possibility. If it doesn't make sense, well, you know the alternative. So let's pretend that it's a couple thousand years ago, and we here, we Eric, we, here, we're the committee to write the Bible. It's a secret committee. Human beings got together and said the Jewish people need an instruction manual. Everything comes with an instruction manual. You buy a watch, comes with a manual like this big, in languages you never heard of, you know. Try to figure out how to work a watch. How about life? Maybe life needs an instruction manual. Okay, so we decided that we're going to create a Bible that will instruct the Jewish people how to live. Now, we didn't tell anybody about it, because when we write it, we're going to write it as if God wrote it, because else nobody will listen to it. Right? Makes sense. So we're secretly going to author the Bible right now. And we're going to see if it makes sense. Let's see if people could have done it. Is this a possibility even? Is it a possibility that people could have got together and wrote a Bible? Let's see. Okay, so I'll be the chairman of the committee, since I have the computer. Whatever, right? Okay? And I'm going to take suggestions from you. We're going to write the Bible right now. Remember, there is no Bible. There is no 5 books of Moses. Nothing happened. There was no Sinai. God didn't create anything. He didn't give anything. Maybe there is a God. Maybe there isn't a God. We don't even care. We're going to write it. We're going to claim that God wrote it. Of course, we're going to write it, and it's the Word of God. People will like that, you know, and they'll accept it more easily. So let's create the Bible. Ready? You ready? Let's create a Bible. Here we go. Now we're going to have some laws about how people should live. Okay? So somebody give me a law, and we'll see if we'll put it into the Bible. Simple as that. Somebody give me a law that you would want to put into a book, want people to follow. Do's and don'ts. Oh, no, see, I can't ask you, Dylan. I can't, because you've heard this. Give me a law. Give me a law that you would want to put in the instruction manual for people.
Don't lie.
Don't lie, Maribel says. Don't lie. Let's find out, fellow committee members. How many people think don't lie is a good idea? You're a published author?
Yeah.
Yeah, see, we're going to put it in. We're going to put it in the book. How about another law? Give me another law.
Don't kill.
Don't kill. Wow, that's a brilliant idea. Don't kill. Okay, Pam, right?
Yeah.
Okay, how many people like don't kill? Okay, maybe don't murder. Okay, good. How about another law? Great, yeah.
Don't steal.
Don't steal. How many people like don't steal? Okay, right now, I would have to say it's working very well. This is a working committee. It's doing nicely, suggesting laws, putting them in there. Sounds really, really good. At this point, I would say very plausible. People got together, had some ideas. Let's tell people not to lie, people not to murder, don't steal. Good idea. Put it in the book, say that God said it, we're in business. Perfect. I would like to suggest a law myself. You tell me if you like it. We'll vote on it again, just like the same as you did. If you like it, we'll put it in. If you don't like it, we take it out. Pretty simple, right? Let's suggest the following law. Let's put in a law, we'll call it an agricultural law. We're an agricultural society, you know, living out there. We eat off the land pretty much. Let's put in a law in our Bible that we should work the land, which is fine. And we do it every year, and everything's fine, the same thing. But we're only going to do it for 6 years. At the end of 6 years, we're going to tell the people to stop. Don't work the land for the entire 7th year. Completely stop. That's my idea for a law. Now, think about the law for a second. Before we vote on it, let me hear some advantages or disadvantages to the law. If you like the law, give me an advantage. What's a good thing about the law?
You get a year off of work.
You get a year off of work. It's great. Okay. What would you do with it?
Vacation.
Vacation.
Go to Florida.
Okay, go to Florida. Okay. What are advantages? Are there any benefits to this law?
Environmentally, it might be good for the land.
Might be good for the land. Why is that?
It's not getting overworked. It has a chance to rejuvenate itself.
Exactly. I'm sorry, I forgot your first name.
SEMA.
SEMA. So SEMA says it's very good for the land. When you let the land rest, the minerals come back. I think it's called, I have it here called soil replenishment, perhaps.
Exactly.
You replenish it, exactly. I happen to know a lot about this. I'm from Brooklyn. I know a lot about farming and agriculture, you know. So haven't seen a blade of grass in years. So this is a very good thing for the land. We let the land rest. It's like people. If people work for 6 days and then they rest, then they come back well refreshed. All right, maybe it doesn't work for people, but it certainly works for the land. We let the land rest, and it comes back and it performs better for you. So there are a lot of advantages to the law. So I would say perhaps we should put it into the book. But maybe it's not such a good idea not to work for the whole 7th year. What's wrong with the law?
Where are you going to get your money?
People that work in that industry, farmers, would have trouble making a living for
I have
themselves.
trouble making a living.
Run out of
Where are you from originally, Eric?
Queens,
From Queens. You know why I ask you that?
why not?
I'm going to tell you in a minute. Hold on to the question. What else is wrong with the
They
law?
won't have any food.
Run out of
I'm
food.
sorry?
They won't have food.
No, food. That could be a problem. Yeah, you know what Jerry Seinfeld said about the Jewish people.
We like to eat.
Yeah. He said all the holidays can be summarized in 9 words. They tried to kill us, we won, let's eat. So what I told you, Eric, about why, see, Eric mentions there's not going to be any money for these industries, and there's not going to be any food. So wherever I go and I ask this question to audiences, every audience says the same thing. It's pretty obvious. You know, what's wrong with the law? Well, there's not going to be any food. So, oh yeah, that could be a problem. So wherever you go, it's the same thing, except whenever I give this talk in New York. That's why I ask where you're from. Because when I ask where you're from in New York, is what's wrong with the law, they said, oh, there's not going to be any money. How about there's no food? Oh yeah, that's a problem. But it's getting back to the business side of this. You know? So I ask where you're from. It's in Queens, of course. You know, that's all we care about in New York. It's ridiculous. But otherwise, everywhere else you go, there's a big problem. No food. There's no food. It's a great idea for this law that I want to put into the book. Let the land, let the soil replenish, Tzima, right? Wonderful idea. Only one problem. No food. I know you want to give me a solution, Doc, right?
I know solution.
And,
What's going to happen in the 8th year to your
That's
Bible
right.
and your God?
That's right, exactly.
What are your people
We're
going to
going to get to that, exactly. So what is, that's exactly the point, by the way. I think okay, we're going to get to it in a second. So somebody give me a solution to the problem, though. We're a working committee. We want to write a Bible. Secretly, we want to write a Bible. So we're trying to work this out, trying to put laws in. Don't murder, don't steal, let the land rest. It's a good idea, okay? But we got a problem. No food, right?
Store
How about a solution, guys? Solution.
Store some
Solve it.
food.
Store the food up. Excellent. Just store it up, right? There it is. You saw this thing before? There it is. Store the food. You store it up, you'll have food for the 7th year. Give me another solution. Another solution. Not you.
buy from other societies?
You can buy from other societies, okay, or you can alternate. You can divide up the land. You don't have to do it. You have to store. One thing, not everybody has to stop in the same year. We can either buy, just say, or you can store, divide up land. I'll stop this year, you stop next year. We'll take from each other. Simple. We got a great working committee here. This is fantastic. We're going to write this Bible. It makes so much sense. People could have done it. They could have done it. They could have put this law in the book because this actually is a law in the Bible. It's a law in the Bible. Back in the days, in the temple times and before, they kept this law. It's called the Shemitah law. Even today, sometimes there are farmers that are keeping this law, even not during temple times, there's a question about it, etc. And it's an amazing thing. It's a wonderful law. Let the land rest. What do? You got nothing to eat, says Pam. So what do? Of course, you got to store up the crops, or you got to divide up the land. Perfect.
But what about the
Perfect.
trees? The trees that produce food, like pecan trees,
You can't touch it.
apples.
Can't touch it.
Okay.
Can't touch it. Can't sow. You can't harvest. Can't plow. Can't nothing. Leave it alone. Just leave it alone. Now, I have a different solution. I have to tell you the truth. I'm going to suggest to you a different solution. Now, nothing wrong with your solutions. Store it up, divide the land, buy from all good ideas. Tell me what you think about this solution. How about if we write in the book that we're not going to store the crops and we're not going to divide the land, how about if we tell the people in the book that they don't have to worry about not having food? You know why? Because God will give us a triple crop in the 6th year of the cycle. Because we need a triple crop, as you said. We need for the 8th year, we need for the 6th year, regular. We need the 7th year because we can't harvest. We haven't planted anything we need for the 8th year. Let's just write in the book that God will give us triple crop in the 6th year. Then we got no problems. It's a good idea?
Great.
How many people like this? Does anyone like this? Oh, thank you. That's because you missed the beginning. That's why you like it.
Okay.
Because there is no God, you see. We're just a committee. We're making it up ourselves. If there's no God, we can't write that God's going to give us a triple crop. He has nothing to do with this. That's what you're all thinking. How could you write that God's going to give us a triple crop? Right? The answer pretty much obviously is, even if we get this great triple crop of all the things together, now look at that, it's beautiful. Okay, now, folks, think together. If we write this solution in the Bible, that God's going to give us a triple crop in the 6th year, how long do you think the religion is likely to last?
Till this, that 60.
Yeah, that's right. Take a look at what it says in the book. For 6 years you may plant your fields. This is actually what we wrote. The committee wrote this. Prune your vineyards, harvest your crops. The 7th of the Sabbath. It's God's Sabbath. You may not plant your fields nor prune your vineyards. Now ask the big question. And if you ask, Pam, what will we eat in the 7th year? The author was not from New York, not concerned about business. We have not planted, nor have we harvested crops. Solution. Store the crops? Divide the land? Which solution got into the book? Oh, that's mine. Oh, look at that. I will direct my blessings in the 6th year, and the land will produce enough crops for 3 years. How'd that get in there? That's the worst idea I ever heard, even though it was mine. That's a terrible idea. Tell the people that God's going to give them a triple crop in the 6th. By the way, the 6th year is the worst year for the crops. As you said, the nutrients get worse and worse. The 6th year is the weakest year. No, that's the year you're going to get a triple crop in. So how long is a religion going to last? About 6 years. You got about a 6-year religion going now. When the 6th year comes, if we don't get the triple crop, people look at the book and they say, what kind of book is this? This is God's book? Where's the triple crop? Hey, Joe, you got a triple crop? Nope. I got nothing. Well, but God promised. It says so right here. Throw the book out. What kind of book is this? This is going to base our religion? We're going to die for the religion from the book that's telling us we're going to get a triple crop? What is going on here? Not to put anybody down, but it took about 30 seconds to think of better solutions than this. You know, it was a good idea. I'm not, store the crops, divide the land, It doesn't take that great wisdom to think of the solutions to this problem. Could human beings have written a book and come up with this solution? Think about it. Does it make sense? Is it reasonable? Now, by the way, maybe the religion lasts 13 years. We'd run one more cycle. The Jews, we like to suffer. So we suffer through this 6th year, 7th year. Yeah. We start again, We'll try it once more. Maybe God wasn't paying attention. I don't know. But it's not a long-term solution. Do you see it? Do you see that? You see how improbable it is? Just as one example that people could have written this. Yes?
Couldn't people just justify it though, and maybe say that, oh, we didn't get our triple crop, but it's because you didn't have the right mindset, you weren't doing it the right way, and maybe if you try better the next time, it'll work out. Because don't other religions they don't follow things exactly by the word?
They might try it out. The question is not really. The question is how the solution got in there in the first place.
I'm saying it could be symbolic for something.
Symbolic?
Yes, the triple crop or something.
I don't see, I mean, you're on the committee, right?
I'd like to be.
You're on, I think you're a good member of the committee. Do you like, would you put that in the book?
It sounds nice.
You're off the committee. We're writing a Bible, you know, we're not writing poetry. Sounds nice. Sounds nice. We want people to follow the law. That's why we're writing this. They're not gonna follow the law if we write this. It doesn't matter whether people listen to the law or not. That's nothing to matter. It doesn't even matter if we got the triple crop or not. I'm not even talking about that. There are reports even back to Josephus who told us that, yes, sir, there were triple crops and that were huge crops. Even today, by the way, if you go to Israel and speak to farmers who, I don't know about a triple crop, they say that they have the best year of their crops is the sixth year. They still keep the cycle. It's amazing. But that's not relevant to this. The question is, how did this get in here? That's all. But why would you write this? Just write, we'll store up the crops. Just write, we'll divide up the land, we'll buy from our neighbors. Just keep it simple. Yeah? Makes sense. Okay. That's this piece. Now, we're going to end with a discussion about my favorite holiday of the year. I just have to reset this. It'll take me about 30 seconds. Somebody count, please.
Out loud?
No. That's okay. And we're going to speak about my favorite holiday of the year. Anybody want to guess what my favorite holiday of the year is?
Pesach.
That's a good guess. Yom Kippur is not such a good guess.
Yom
Okay.
Kippur.
Not such a good guess. Somebody want to guess my favorite holiday of the year? You know me by now.
Purim.
Purim, of course, Purim. Of course, Purim. Right? Welcome, gentlemen. Okay, just in time for the big finale. Okay, welcome. It's good, it's good. Okay, I want to talk about my favorite holiday of the year, Purim. As you probably know, Purim is a time that we celebrate. We celebrate the victory of the Jewish people in Persia about 2,400 years ago when they were being threatened with the extinction of the Jewish people. And we have the great Queen Esther, you know, the story a little bit, Queen Esther and Mordechai the Jew, and they were able to convince the king, Achashverosh, right? You know all the story, somewhat familiar, right? And then we defeated our enemies and how we lived happily ever after. And today we all celebrate in
We made a party.
Madrid. They made a party, thank you.
Okay.
Right, that's the main thing, the party. Okay, so all of the things that are written down about the story of Purim are written down in a book. Anybody know the name of the book that is written down in? Is this working? Hello? What, sorry? The Megillah. The Megillah. Megillas Esther. You ever heard of the Megillas Esther? Megillas Esther. Megillas, that's the story of the book that was written down 2,400 years ago, still read today in synagogues on the night of Purim, and then again in the morning on Purim, written on parchment by scribes, very carefully, just like a Torah scroll. It's 2,400 years ago. It's called the Megillas Esther. What does the word mean, Megillas Esther? What does that mean in translation?
Scroll of Esther.
The scroll of Esther. Good. Scroll of Esther, the book of Esther, etc. Let's take a look for just a second at the derivatives of those words. Megillas Esther. Megillah. What does Megillah mean? What is the source, the root of the word Megillah? Anybody?
Gal.
Sorry?
Gal, roll.
Roll is one. That's good. What else?
Reveal.
Right, to reveal. Excellent. Right. Legalot. To reveal. A Megillah is not only a book, we not only roll the scroll out, but it's also to reveal. Legalot. Right, Sima?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Esther. Anybody have the name Esther here?
Oh,
Yes, Dylan. The name is Esther. We have to talk later. Anybody else? Doctor's also named Esther. There's two Esthers.
Esther.
Oh, Hester, right?
Hidden.
What is it?
Hidden.
Exactly. My wife's middle name is Esther. It means hidden. Hester, Seser, hidden, concealed. Fascinating. Megillas Esther, known as the Book of Esther, also means to reveal the hidden. Megillas Esther, revealing something that is hidden. And today, for you Discovery survivors, we have this special finale where we're going to reveal something that has been hidden in the book of Esther for 2,400 years. Only was revealed recently in this book of Esther. Fascinating little story. Let's take a look at the book of Esther itself. And we're going to turn the pages to the very end. We're going to come to the 9th chapter. There are 10 chapters in the book of Esther. Anybody know what is unique about the book of Esther? Different than all 24 books of the scriptures. There's one thing that's different about the book of Esther than any other book in the scriptures. Anybody know what that is? Rabbi Wilkatch. Go ahead.
God's name.
Correct. God's name does not appear. All right? Pam, did you know that God's name does not appear in the Megillas Esther? Did you know that? You did know that. So it's good you went out. So it's good.
Sorry, God called.
I understand. I thought you were God. You were on the committee. Weren't you on the committee? You're on the committee. Megillas Esther is one thing that is unique, and that is God's name not there. That's pretty interesting. Queen Esther dictates the book of Esther, the whole history to the scribes. 10 chapters long, the whole story. She leaves out God's name. Don't you think she would believe in God, put his name in there somewhere? So the rabbis asked this question: what is God's name? Where is it? How come it's not in the book of Esther? And the rabbis have an answer. The rabbis always have an answer. And the rabbi's answer is that it is in the book of Esther. That's the best answer. Why isn't it there? It is there. Why can't we see it? Because it's hiding. Just like everything else is hidden in the story of Esther, God's name is also hidden in the book. Where is it hidden? Many places. One of the places that they say it's hidden is the following. What's the name of the king during that time? The king that we're talking about? The king.
Hamelech.
What's the name of the king? Achashverosh, right? Achashverosh, that's the name of the king. Now, if I want to refer to the king at that time, there are several ways I could do it. I could say King Achashverosh. I could say his name, Achashverosh. I could say just the king. In Hebrew, that would be Hamelech Achashverosh. Or just Achashverosh, or just Hamelech. Just the king. If I want to refer to the president, I could say President Obama. Or I could say Obama. Or say the president. We know who we're talking about. So the rabbi said, you see, there are different ways to refer to the king. When I refer to the king as Hamelech Achashverosh, that's talking about Achashverosh. If I say his name, it's talking about him. But sometimes the book just says Hamelech, just the king. So the rabbi said that's a reference not only to Achashverosh, but to the king. Also means the king of the universe. Let's see if we can trip up the rabbis a little bit, if you don't mind. We always like doing that. And we're going to turn the pages to chapter 9. Chapter 9 of the book of Esther. Here's the way it looks. It's, I told you, written by scribes on parchment. And this is the at the time that the Jews have already won their battles. Everything is fine. They're doing great. They beat up everybody. The war is going great. The story is almost over. This is the way it reads. Even if you can't read Hebrew, don't worry about it. Take a look at the configuration. All the scrolls are written exactly the same over the last 2,000 years. Here's a picture of what it looks like in chapter 9. Excuse me. Now we're going to transpose it in English so everybody can enjoy it. Okay, and this is exactly how it looks. Take a look with me and hold on to your socks. And the Jews struck at all their enemies with the sword and slaughter and destruction, did as they pleased to those who hated them. And in Shushan, the capital, the Jews slew and destroyed 500 men, including Parshandatan, Dalphan, Anaspatan, Paratan, Adalia, Aridata, Parmashta, Arisa, Arida, Bazata, the 10 sons of Haman, son of Amdasa, the enemy of the Jews. He did not lay the hand on the spoils. That was very well done, Rabbi Salomon. Thank you.
One breath.
One breath, correct. So that was the 10 sons of Haman. It's very important, excuse me, for everybody in this audience to see that the Jews at this point have slain 500 men, including these 10 men. Who are these 10 men? They are the sons of Haman, the villain. Boo. Excuse me. Here they are. You don't have to memorize them. Don't get panicky. I see some people nervous. You don't have to memorize the names. Just see what's happened. We understand exactly what we're up to. Are you with me? If anyone has a question, interrupt me. I don't want a single person to miss the nuance of what you're about to see. Interrupt me, yell, call out, don't worry about it, okay? All 10 sons of Haman been destroyed. Fine. After this happens, next part of the Megillah, the same day, the number of those killed in Shushan, the capital, was reported to the king. The king said to Queen Esther, in Shushan, the capital, the Jews have slain and destroyed 500 men, including the 10 sons of Haman. What have they done in the rest of the king's provinces? What is your request now? It shall be granted to you. What is your petition further? It shall be fulfilled. Achashverosh is talking to Queen Esther. Darling, he says, this is a platinum American Express card. You can name it. You can name it whatever you want. What is your request? It's all, everything's good now. Jews are good. I know you're a Jewess. I understand. We had a battle. You killed other. Everything's good. Fine. Whatever you want. Imagine you're the queen. You're saying to the king, he's a king over 127 provinces. She can get whatever she wants. What is the one thing that she requests? Take a look. She says the following. Esther replied, if it pleases the king, allow the Jews of Shushan to do tomorrow as they have done today, and let Haman's 10 sons be hanged on the gallows. What's the question, folks? What? What's the question?
They're dead.
They're dead. Hello? Esther, these people are dead. Well, that's the request she makes? Hang dead people. That's the request she makes. By the way, not only is that a strange question, a strange request, but we just said before that when it talks about HaMelech, as Dr. Berkowitz said, HaMelech, it's the king. He's talking to God. She's talking to God. If it pleases the king, that's a reference to God. She's asking God to hang 10 dead men? That's a pretty neat trick. How's that supposed to happen? The big hand comes out of the sky one day, picks up the men? What is this? Look at it carefully. Allow the Jews of Shushan to do tomorrow as they have done today. What could this possibly mean? Here's one possibility. New York Times. Whoop. New York Times. Wednesday, October 16th, 1946, the Nuremberg trials. Göring ends life by poison. 10 others hanged in Nuremberg prison for Nazi war crimes. New men on gallows. Pray for Germany. How many Nazis were hanged? 10. How many sons of Haman were hanged? 10. Do tomorrow as they have done today. Coincidence?
No.
Perhaps. Perhaps. What happened to the 11th Nazi? Göring. What did he do?
Cyanide.
Committed suicide. Does anyone here know of an 11th child that Haman had? Ever hear of an 11th child of Haman?
Daughter.
A daughter, correct. Haman had a daughter. I go around the world and give lectures like this. I love to do this part. And I ask people, what about Haman's daughter? Anybody hear of Haman's daughter? Everybody says, yeah, we heard about it. I said, tell me a story about Haman's daughter. You know what's fascinating? Everybody knows the same story. So we only know one story about her. It's the same story wherever I go. I hear the same story. What's the one story? She's sitting in her apartment one day in Shushan, and there's supposed to be a parade in the streets. Her father, Haman, is supposed to be regaled in the streets of Shushan. He's sitting on a horse with the poor Jew Mordechai is leading him on the horse. So she decides to add to the excitement of the day. So she prepares a little pot of goodies, a chamber pot of stuff up in her window. And when the parade comes by, she's going to dump the pot over. It's going to fall on Mordechai, the Jew, and everybody's going to have a big laugh. She's so excited about it. Unbeknownst to Haman's daughter, Haman and Mordechai have switched places. Haman has already been found to be in disfavor with the king. He was ordered to lead Mordechai on the horse in the streets of Shushan. She doesn't know this. She's all excited in a drunken stupor, and she's all ready to go. She's got the pot ready. The parade comes by. She tips it over. She watches to see her fabulous work, and as she looks down, she sees that she's about to deface her own father, not Mordechai. And what does she do? She leaps and commits suicide. 10 Nazis are hanged, 1946 Nuremberg trials. The 11th Göring commits suicide. 10 sons of Haman are hanged. The 11th daughter commits suicide. And in a recent book, by the way, on Nazi Germany, Göring was found to have been a transvestite. He wore women's clothing under his Nazi uniform. The name of the book is called The Pink Swastika, by the way. That's true. That's not a joke. You can Google it right now. Don't take out your phone. That's right. Do tomorrow as you have done today, says Esther. She's talking to the king. She's talking to God. One day, tomorrow, one day. Do tomorrow as you have done today. Fascinating. Coincidence? Could be. But the plot thickens. Yeah. Take a look at the photo over there from the New York Times. It's a great photo. It's a picture of the Nuremberg trials. I was not alive at that time, but I read about Nuremberg. The courtroom photo of the trial ended in June. Can you see this in the back? In June 1946. Sentencing was repeatedly postponed due to appeals for amnesty. Fascinating. When I read this, my blood boils. Amnesty. They have the trial for Nazi war criminals. My father, actually, of blessed memory, my father was in the concentration camps. He testified, not in Nuremberg, but at one of the trials for Nazi war criminals. We have the transcript at home of what he said at those trials. And here we have appeals for amnesty. Amnesty? What's the point of the trial? They have the trial, they find them guilty. Okay, let's hang them. No, amnesty, let them go. What? Let them go?
What is
What's the
amnesty
question?
mean?
Means let them go.
Oh.
Means let them go. What's going on? So hold on to that for a second. Let's remember that. Remember what happened over here. I'm going to come back to it in a minute. Watch. Meanwhile, take a look at the Megillah. And you just might be astounded. Because here's the Megillah. I'm sorry, first here's the calendar. This is the Nuremberg calendar, 1946. The calendar of the trials at Nuremberg. It is October 16th, 1946. And the reason that I show it to you is because I want to show you the year of the hangings at Nuremberg. Now, in Hebrew, excuse me, in Hebrew, we do not have any numerals. We only have letters. If you want to say one, you have to say Aleph. If you want to say two, you have to say Beis. You understand? There's no such thing as numerals. But this was the year of the hangings at Nuremberg. The year of the hangings at Nuremberg is 5707. What is this year's? What is the year this year? Anybody know the Hebrew year? 57? 74 is correct. We're up to 5774 from creation. Okay? This is 1946. You don't have to question it. Believe it. Take my word for it. It's correct. 5707. That's the year of the hangings at Nuremberg. Now, how do you say 5707 in Hebrew? This is the key moment. You say it Tuf Shin Zayin. Even if you don't read Hebrew, take a look at the configuration of those letters. Right underneath 5707. Tuf Shin Zayin, numerical equivalence. It's not numbers, because we have no numbers. We only have letters. So the letters in Hebrew, to write the year of the calendar, 5707, Tuf Shin Zayin. Now, let's go back to the Megillah and take a close look at the 10 sons of Haman that I told you not to memorize. You don't have to. But take a look at how they were written. If you remember before, they were written in very large font size. Remember that? Very, very big. There it is. Beautifully done. It's been written like this for over 2,000 years. Exactly the same. However, ladies and gentlemen, there are 3 letters here that are written smaller than all the other letters. Take a look at the first name and you'll see that in the first name there is a Tuf that is written small. In the 7th name there is a Shin written small, and the 10th name there is a Zion written small. Tuf Shin Zion, the year of the hangings at Nuremberg. Don't ask me to explain this. It is inexplicable. Imagine Esther is dictating to the scribes 2,000 years ago. We're very proud of the killing of the 10 sons of Haman. Put that in the large font size, you know. Weren't they like 48 font, you know, beautiful. Let's put that great. When you get to the tough, and they make like 8, you know. You get to the shin. Well, why? So, why are we doing that? Don't ask any questions. Someday there'll be a discovery program. I'll explain it over there, maybe, you know. Just do it like that. The exact year of the hangs. Do tomorrow as you have done today. And here, no one, by the way, no one was ever able to explain why, for these couple of thousands of years, it was written this way. This was discovered, quote, only about 50 years ago, by a Hasidic rabbi, by the way. Tuf Shin Zion. Now, some of you sticklers in the audience may be asking me a good question, and I'm going to deal with that right now. That is going back to the calendar. I told you this is the calendar of October 1946, which it is, and I told you that the year was 5707, which it is, and I told you that you write 5707 by writing Tuf Shin Zion, which is also true. However, if you want to be very, very technical, that's not exactly correct. Why is that? Because each letter has a numerical equivalent. Aleph equals 1, Beis equals 2. That's true, right? Let's take a look at the numerical equivalents of this Tuf Shin Zion. Anybody know gematria here? What the numerical equivalent is called gematria? What is the numerical equivalent of Tuf? Anybody? Yell it out.
400.
400 is correct. How about Shin, Doc?
300.
300 is correct. Go for Zion.
7.
7 is correct. Tuf Shin Zion. Total it up for us, Doc.
700.
707. Nice. Remember the old planes? 707s? 707. Uh-oh. Solomon's in trouble. We're missing 5,000 years. It's cute. It's close. The year is really 5707, not 707. Why would we write the year 5707, Tuf Shin Zion, when it only equals to 707? What about the 5,000? I'm going to tell you the answer. And the answer makes it even more fascinating. How's that? Makes it even more fascinating. You see, throughout the history of our lives, we have always left off the 1,000 column. Go to your butcher, go to your drugstore, whatever you get your calendars, ask them if they have any old calendars. You'll see it's still written that way. They don't put the 1,000 column in there. Why not? Why not? Because we ran out of letters, folks. The last letter in the Hebrew alphabet is Tuf. That's 400. So let's say I want to write 500. I want to make out a check in Hebrew to the Jewish Education Center, right? I want to write a check, but I want it in Hebrew, so I want to write $500, right? But I can't write it in Hebrew because there's no letter for 500. So how do I write 500? You got to combine letters, right? Take a few letters together, put it together. Let's say I want to write 600. I want to write 1,000. You got to combine letters. Let's say I want to write 5,000. You got to combine a lot of letters to get up to 5,000. We ran out of letters. It only goes up to Tuf. So traditionally, we always leave off that column. It's as if we're saying, you should know which millennium you're in. We don't have to write that, you know. So that every millennium, though, it repeats itself. Many years ago, there was a year 707. Remember year 707, a long time ago? When there was a year 707, 5,000 years ago, if they were writing, which they weren't, how did they write it, do you think, in Hebrew? How did they write 707? What? Tuf Shin Zion. How about 1,000 years later? 1707. How did they write it? Tuf Shin Zion. How about 2707? Right? That's how it's written. Now, how many times has Tuf Shin Zion occurred in history? Slow? 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 6 is correct. 7, 17, 27, 37, 47, 57. There are actually 6 occurrences, right? Because we're in the 6th millennium. Good. So you might say, Esther, what are you doing? For some reason you're predicting the future, you're writing Tufshin Zayin in small letters, but you're hedging your bets. We don't know which Tufshin Zayin it is. There are a lot of Tufshin Zayins. There are 6 of them. How do you know which Tufshin Zayin she was talking about? Go back to the Megillah, folks. We see the Tuf, right? We see the Shin. We see the Zayin. They're all missized. But there is one letter that is larger than all the others. And that letter is, there's the Tufshin Zayin, the letter that is larger than all the others is the Vav. The first letter in the last name. The numerical equivalent of Vav. Dr. Berkowitz.
6.
6 is correct. It is the 6th occurrence of Tufshin Zayin. She got it exactly. 5707. Due tomorrow, as they have done today. Now you know why you will repeat this to your friends later about 4 o'clock today. And call up a friend and say, you gotta see this. Get a Megillah. I don't care where you get one from. Let's go to the museum. I want to see how it's written. I want to see if it's true. So they have Megillahs now that are 800, 900 years old. You can look at them in museums. You can find them. They're written exactly the same as we have them today. I'm not making this up. It's Tufshin Zayin. The big Vav. It's there. Remember the courtroom photo I asked you to remember? Remember that? Remember what it said and then the caption there from the New York Times? Though the sentencing was postponed because of appeals for amnesty, the trial ended in June 1946. I had a problem. Appeals for amnesty? There's a very simple answer. You see, the trial ended in June 1946. Somebody here, please tell me, what was the year, the Hebrew year, of June 1946? Tufshin Vav. 5706. You see that the year changes in September, Rosh Hashanah. Not January. The year changes in Rosh Hashanah. The trial ended, it wasn't Tufshin Zayin yet. It was still 5706. If they would have hanged those Nazis in June 1946, they would have been hanged in 5706. And I would have been standing here and said to you, look how close she came. Give her a break. She just missed it by a few months.
Good thing the king's in charge.
Right, so the king was in charge, exactly. The king was in charge. And he said, you know what? The trial ended too soon. We'll have some appeals for amnesty. That should take a couple of months. It delayed the hangings until 5707. She got it right on the money. By the way, once we hit 5707, let's wait till October 16th. Why? Hoshana Rabbah, the 7th day of Sukkot. The 7th day of Sukkot is a very, very significant day of Hoshana Rabbah. According to the Zohar, that is a day of judgment for the entire world. Not the Jewish people. That's when they were hanged. Tufshin Zayin, 5707. Which one? The 6th one. Those are the only letters that are missized there. Who could have done that? Talk about predicting the future. Wild. One last piece. One last little edge. I think there's maybe one detractor left in the audience. I will not identify that one.
Aren't there many examples of numbers or hidden messages that have?
There are, yes, a good question. There are many examples like that. None of them as exciting as this, I would say. There are other examples in that. When we do a more expanded program of the codes, the hidden codes in the Torah. There are some very fascinating numerological findings, yes, but this is really special. We were not the only ones interested in the Nuremberg trials. The whole world was interested in the Nuremberg trials. As a matter of fact, some of you may remember there was a magazine once called Newsweek. Anybody remember Newsweek? Yes. Yeah, I think it's defunct. No?
I can age myself.
Right. Newsweek was very interested in the hangings at Nuremberg. They sent a reporter to Nuremberg. I'm not going to make you read the whole article. Just take a look for the coup de grace, as we say, at the final paragraph in the Newsweek article. Take a look. Only Julius Streicher went without dignity. He was one of the Nazis. He had to be pushed across the floor, wild-eyed and screaming Heil Hitler. Mounting the steps, he cried out, "And now I go to God." He stared at the witnesses facing the gallows and shouted, "Purim Fest, 1946. Huh? Purim Fest? When does Purim fall out? Which month of the year does Purim fall out?
Usually March.
March. This is October. What happened on Purim? What are we celebrating? The hanging of the 10 sons of Haman. Haman himself was hanged on Passover. The 10 sons of Haman on Purim. Here it is. Julius Streicher, the Nazi, his last final words connecting the events of Nuremberg with Purim. If you're not astonished, you're not here. Julius Streicher said, is that what he said? That's what Newsweek said. That's what he said. Purim Fest. Nobody can explain why Julius Streicher said that. He died seconds later. One thing I can tell you, Julius Streicher never attended a discovery program. That's for sure. We know that. How he made this connection, it's just a fact. Can't make this stuff up, folks. So what have we shown you here? What have we shown you here? Different ideas, different concepts about what discovery is, different ideas about how to present a case for the divinity of the Torah. And I said to you Friday night, some of you will be wowed, some of you will be mildly impressed, some of you will be scoffing and say, not be true, can't be true, not true. This percentage, Harry's trying to take the shot. How much evidence does he need? How many doctors will tell you? Everybody evaluates it differently. That's up to you. The only question is, what do you do with the information? Now that you've come through this experience, ask yourself, what do I do with this? What does it mean in my life? It's a great question. People asked the question today, who is a Jew? Great question. Who is a Jew? So I heard a wonderful answer. A great rabbi in Israel says, who is a Jew is not answered by who your grandparents were. Who is a Jew? The answer to that is who your grandchildren will be. That will tell you who is a Jew. And unfortunately today, with massive assimilation, we don't know anymore. What's going to be? People worry about the disappearance of the Jewish people. I want to tell you folks today that anybody who's staying up at night worried about the disappearance of the Jewish people, you can all sleep well. Rabbi Light told you yesterday, very articulately, he said, the Jewish people are here to stay. It's an eternal covenant. You can all sleep well tonight. We're not going anywhere. We've been around this long, we've been around for more. We'll be here forever. Fine. So what are we worried about? We're not worried about the disappearance of the Jewish people. We know the Jews will be here, but the question is, who will they be? What will we look like? What will our children look like? What will our grandchildren look like? You know, I tell you about Sinai 3,000 years ago. That's a long time. I can't relate to something that happened 3,000 years ago. So don't think about 3,000 years ago. Think about generations. How many generations, when you go back to Sinai, how many generations are there? I would say maybe 140 generations. That's a number I can deal with. 140 steps. You're walking up the Washington Monument. I don't know how many steps that is, but 140 steps. That's what it is, and you're there at Sinai. And I would say to you that what does this have to do with me? I would tell you that on that staircase, for 135 steps, or 136 steps, or 137, or 138 steps, all of our ancestors were the same. We all lived together on the same step. But in the last few generations, things started to drift apart. Now we understand differently. It's not really the same. We no longer believe. How do I know that's true? It's because if that wasn't true, you wouldn't be here today. You wouldn't be here today. You'd be gone. The rest of the pack, people who are no longer identifying with the Jewish people, but we do. You're here, identifying with the Jewish people. The Talmud says that an old man was once seen planting carob seeds in the ground. And somebody walks by and says to him, "Oh, old timer, you're planting carob seeds? You know that it takes 70 years to see fruit from a carob tree? Why in heaven? Why would you plant carob seeds?" He had a great answer. The great answer says, "I don't know." He said, "I came into the world, I see carob trees. Obviously somebody planted them for me. So that's my job. I plant them also. I won't see those fruit, that's okay. But I got to worry about the future too. What's going to be with future generations? Are they going to identify with the Jewish people? Are they going to be understanding of the Torah and the Jewish people?" I want to leave you with a personal story. I'll let you go. A story that happened to me a few years ago. I was walking in Brooklyn one day in Borough Park. Borough Park is a very, very religious section of Brooklyn. And this is exactly what happened. I know it because it happened to me, okay? I'm walking down the street in Borough Park, minding my own business, as they say, and a man who I've never seen before in my life stands there in the middle of the street, just standing there, and as I walk by, he says these words to me. He says, "Are you going to the funeral?" Excuse me? "Are you going to the funeral?" What are you talking about? You know, he said, "I want to know if you're going to the funeral." He said, I don't know you, sir, and you don't know me, and I don't know what funeral you're talking about, and why would you be asking me if I'm going if I don't know you and you don't even know what is this? It's a joke? What is this? I said, "Whose funeral?" He said, "Mr. Schachner." I said, "Who?" He said, "Mr. Schachner." I said, "I don't know Mr. Schachner. And you don't know me. And I don't know you. So what are you talking about?" Get this. He says to me, "Of course you know Mr. Schachner." I said, "Excuse me? You tell me to go to the funeral. You tell me Mr. Schachner. I told you I don't know him. You tell me I do know him." He said, "You know Mr. Schachner. Go to the funeral." I was looking up at the sky like, well, what is going on here? I say to him, "Where is the funeral? Maybe I should go." He said, "Turn around. There's a synagogue right there." He said, "Go inside." I don't know who the man was till today. I don't know who he was. He told me to go to the funeral. I went to the funeral. I walked inside. I didn't know what I was doing. I walked inside. I'm going to a stranger's funeral. I sat in the back, and a lot of people there. I sat in the back, and this man, Mr. Schachner, I don't know, had died, and giving a eulogy, and I'm shaking my head. I'm like, what am I doing here? And the rabbi's up there, and he talks about Mr. Schachner, and then he mentions his children. And he says he has 3 daughters. And he mentions his 3 daughters. Now, all of his 3 daughters are married. I know every single one of them. I didn't know their maiden name was Schachner, so I didn't know that their father had died. I didn't know anything about it, but I knew who they are. And he's talking about the 3 daughters. I said, "That's interesting." The man was right. I do know Mr. Schachner, in a sense. And this is what the rabbi said about this Mr. Schachner. I'll never forget it. He said, "Mr. Schachner was a devout member of our congregation. He came to pray every morning. Very beautiful man, wonderful man. One morning, after the prayers, he walked out, he left, and the rabbi says, I also walked out and left, and I saw that he was standing across the street at a bus stop. So I said, okay, people stand at bus stops, no big deal. The next day, the rabbi says, I walk out and I see Mr. Schachner standing at the bus stop again. And then the next day, the same thing, and a few days in a row like that. And I'm thinking, I wonder why Mr. Schachner's going at the bus stop, So I walked over to him and I said, Mr. Schachner, excuse me, good morning, how are you? Just wondering why you're standing at the bus stop. I know you live around the corner. He says, that's right. He said, I'm not going home. I said, oh, are you going to work? He says, no, I'm retired. I don't work. Oh, you're going to visit? I said, no. So you stand every morning at the bus stop, you're not going home, you're not going to visit, not going to work. Why are you standing here? He took a deep breath, Mr. Schachner, and he said, Rabbi, I'm going to tell you why I'm standing here. He said, Rabbi, I'm a Holocaust survivor. I came here to New York, to America, having lost my entire family in the war. I came here alone, penniless. I built myself up. I got married again. I said, I'm going to make a life for myself. Then I started thinking beyond myself. I started thinking about the Jewish people. So what are we going to do? How are the Jewish people going to rebuild? And I was standing here. A school bus passes by right in front of me. I said, beautiful. A school bus. Beautiful. I look inside, little children, beautiful little children. They're on the way to school, to yeshiva, to study Torah, Borough Park. Beautiful. Well, I'm standing there again, and another bus comes by. And then another bus came by. Just while I'm standing here, just happened to be standing here, and then another one comes, I don't know. And I said, wow, this is amazing. And I start counting buses. I'm counting the buses. That day, Rabbi, I counted 32 buses. 32 buses from this vantage point. I can see 32 buses of school children. I said to myself, that is the most beautiful sight in the world. That's the answer to my question. How are the Jewish people going to rebuild? They're going to send the children to study. That's how they're going to rebuild. That's the answer. The next day I walked out of the synagogue. I came and says, I have an idea. I'm going to stand at the bus stop again. Let me see how many school buses there are. And here they come again. And I start counting them again, and there's 32 buses. And the next day I came out and I said, let me get to this bus stop. And I'm counting them again. And every day, Rabbi, I come out here and I stand at the bus stop and I count buses. That's how I start my day, every day. That's beautiful. And if there's one bus missing, he says, my day's ruined. I know exactly how many buses are supposed to come here. That's the answer. That's why I stand here, Rabbi. And folks, that's why I stand here. I stand here the same way Mr. Schachner stood over there. And I go all over the country and the world, and I speak to audiences, and I look out at you, and I want to tell you, I see school buses. Education. Study, learn, educate, grow, develop. There's wisdom. That's the answer to the problem. That's the answer to Jewish continuity. That's the answer to fulfillment in your life. Get on the bus. Today there are more buses than ever. There are so many opportunities to study, to find out, to learn what life's all about. I say this wherever I go. I count these school buses and I say, this is your chance. There are no more excuses. Used to be, we don't have books. How are we supposed to study? We don't have teachers. How are we supposed to learn? We don't have internet. We don't have tapes, CDs, nothing. Today, we have everything at our fingertips. You folks here, you have a program here which is unparalleled. You have these tremendous, I have to say it, you have these tremendous people, the rabbis and the rebbitzins who are just here to say, get on the bus. We'll give you whatever you want. Study once a week, twice a week, half an hour, once a month, come to a class. The opportunities are endless. You're not somewhere in who knows, in Indonesia where even there you can learn on the internet. Even there are no excuses. You can find out. And I have to add one more piece, and that is a tribute to Rabbi Goldstein. And he's looking at me strangely, and I'll tell you why. Because he said something so important yesterday. Because he said, it's not just education. It says, V'yadata hayom, know today, v'hashevosa el vavecha, and put it into your heart. And he made the outstanding point. He said, we're going to learn, we're going to study, we're going to educate ourselves, but it's much more than that. And he's so right. It's not just getting on the bus. It's v'hashevosa el vavecha. Put it into your hearts. We said it before, it's not enough to say I'm a good Jew in my heart. That's true. But it's also not good enough to say I'm a good Jew in my brain. That's also not good enough. You can educate and get on the school bus and you'll be great and you'll know so much. Oh, did you hear this? National revelation, you'll tell it to your friends. And Tufshin Zion, wow. And the Jewish people, they'll be around forever. Fantastic, eternal covenant, that. And then you go out and you do, everything's the same. Because you learned a lot, you're real smart now, and you can show off. It's wonderful. It's not enough. You got to put it in your heart. You got to put it in your heart. You got to put it in practice. That's how you live. That's how you give it over. And that's how you love being a Jew. We're not here to say you're supposed to suffer. You're supposed to love it. There's so much to love. It's the emotional impact that does it. Rabbi Goldstein is right, folks. It's not enough to get on the school bus. The beauty is that this program, and I can say it in all honesty because I didn't know it before, but I know it now, they do much more than educate you. They're living it. They're loving it. When you meet these people, these fabulous people here, and they're giving over all this wisdom to you, it's not just intellectual wisdom. They're living it, they're loving it, they're emotionally involved. It's alive. It's not just proof. Oh, we have evidence. Do you believe it's Torah? Do you believe it's God's word? Yeah, but. Because that's a problem. We could all do that. He's 100% right. I met a lot of people who are very convinced, but they still can't make any changes in their lives. V'hashevosa el vavecha. Got to put it into your heart. Yes, you need the wisdom. You need to be convinced, that's true. But then you got to put it in your heart. And I could say that you can do that here. Very easy to do it here. You not just go to a class. You get connected with these people. And when you do, you see that this is not just smart people. There are a lot of smart people in the world. These are special people. These are people that can really show you how to live and how to love being a Jew. And you'll have a fabulous life. That's what they're pitching. They're pitching having a great life, not just doing your duty. They're telling you how to have a wonderful, exciting, fabulous, interesting, fulfilling life. That's what it's really all about. So my last, final pitch to you is get on the bus. Take a look at the bus. Get on the bus. Study as much as you can. You need that. Don't throw it away before you find out what you already have. You've been a wonderful audience. We had a wonderful time here. I want to thank you for having us, and wish me well on my meniscus. And thanks for being such wonderful people, and see you on the bus. Thank you. Yes, the gentleman had a question. Please.
Please. I'm sorry, we just came in to listen to you, and maybe you say something that's already been studied, repeated, or whatever.
That's fine.
But the rabbis who are here tonight have started the Bright program, which is in the community that this gentleman and I live in. And we meet once a week, and we have a wonderful meeting. I think we're averaging around 20, 25